everyone, I'm Sos Teaside and welcome to this new video. Happy Pride Month! Woo! Yes, I know Pride Month is almost over, but it's okay, we can be proud all year. Today I want to show you the drawing process of this particular drawing I made for Pride, featuring my D&D characters. So let's dive in! It's been a while since I made a video like this, where I just talk about the process of the drawing. My other videos tend to perform better, but I do really enjoy these because I can learn a lot from analyzing my art, and also it's just nice to talk about the process of making art, right? AI art bros, be gone. For years, I wanted to draw something special for Pride with a bunch of my OCs/D&D characters colored in their respective flags, but it turns out that I just can't finish group pictures. The difference this year though is that I wanted this drawing to be a print that I could sell at the last convention that I tabled at earlier this month. I knew that this print wouldn't sell, but for some reason it was really important for me to have this ready for that weekend. Maybe because it was Pride Month and I really wanted to have some more Pride stuff to offer. Don't ask me why I stressed so much about it. My brain is weirdly wired and I struggle a lot with not meeting my self-exposed expectations. I actually managed to make print out of it, by the way, but the colors turned out very differently than the original and it made me really sad. Also, I did some small corrections to the drawing afterwards, but I still try to sell the prints at the next Artist Alley. This initial sketch has been in my draft since last year and only depicted my main D&D character Neon and my other two characters, Lunko and Elro. I technically have another D&D character, Siandra, a Goliath paladin mom who I played in 2 one-shots, but I am not strongly attached to her, so she didn't make it into the drawing. Sorry, mom. Because I left this first sketch untouched for about a year, a new character has been added to it instead. If you follow me on Instagram, if you're my sibling, or if you're one of the poor souls that have to play D&D with me, you know that this guy is a Blauauge, an NPC for the mini campaign that I'm currently DMing right now, and also my backup character for Neon. I have severe brain rot about this guy. I am obsessed with making content about him. I love him, he's best boy, and I just... Maybe I will make a separate video for him, maybe not, I don't know, but that's too much to unpack in this little video. Anyway, back to the drawing. You know these special shonen manga drawings where the manga cast will jump in one direction, white or simple background, dramatic lighting, bonus action if the light source is behind the cast, and it looks super cool and dynamic? Yeah. I love these. I am a sucker for shonen and I love dynamic drawings in general, and I knew I wanted this specific motive for myself, especially with the characters holding their flags and being colored in their respective identities. I wanted to be loud and proud and happy and colorful. The composition was also clear to me from the beginning. Neon needed to be in the foreground because she's loud and energetic, and my main D&D character, she's not in the foreground anymore because I had to add her bestie somewhere next to her, but that's okay. The loud characters at the foreground, that's all you need to know. Lunko is placed at the side because they are the party support, and Elro in the background because he's a stealthy rogue. If you want to know more about some of my D&D characters, you can see more content of them on my social media. I also have a video about Neon and a video about Lunko if you're interested in these characters. The other ones don't have one yet. First, I wanted Neon and Blauauge to hold the trans flag together because they are very close friends who are also both trans, but turns out it is literally impossible for me to draw 2 people holding a flag. This was completely above my current drawing skill, and it probably would have made the drawing way more stiff anyway because the flag wouldn't flow as nicely anymore, being pulled from 3 different directions. In addition to that, while doing the lines, I realized that I should work with the lines of action, guiding the viewer. I changed the poses of the characters accordingly to it, and while my liner took a toll on the dynamic, I really am proud of the composition. Something that I always forget to do but think is extremely helpful is that I made a color sketch. I roughly placed the colors I wanted to use, blocked the shadows at the beginning roughly, and placed some room light on it. This helped me immensely to get the right vibe for the drawing. For the colors I used pretty much the same hues like the original flags because I'm a simple girl who likes vibrant colors. It was so fun to figure out which color should be placed where. For the shadows I put a rainbow gradient on multiply because I didn't have a rainbow flag flag at first in the drawing, but felt the need to add some rainbow in the drawing. I really loved the initial sketch and I wanted to keep as much as possible in the final drawing. I mostly kept the colors, but doing the line art was pretty hard. The sketch was so dynamic and making the line art for it was really a challenge because the drawing got more static and undynamic. Occasionally I thought that I should maybe just use the sketch instead and clean it. Maybe I should have, but the sketch was not perfect either. A lot of the sketch didn't make much sense, like the movement of the flags. However, I had to force myself to make changes because I was really fond of that first draft. I really have to understand that I shouldn't fixate on the first sketch, even if I love it. Remember kids, art is a process and sometimes art is the changes we make along the way. I also think that the changes really were necessary and I'm super proud of the end result. So yay! Let's talk about the line art. I have two methods to do my line art. This is not about my line art style, but the method. Number one, it's very typical line art, doing one long quick stroke instead of lots of small strokes. Nothing against this kind of line art style, by the way, because there's a lot of art that I actually like that looks like that. But using these long quick strokes makes my drawing more dynamic and confident, and you get very quick while drawing. I have years of practice because I'm super impatient and a comic artist. Peeps, I don't have time to struggle with line art, okay? I have 10 character arcs to draw. It was even expanded to my traditional line art, by the way, which I used to be really afraid of since you can't Ctrl Z your way out of it, but now I'm just like, get it done, just do it, it's fine. Anyway, the second way I line is that I clean up the sketch and I use it as a line art instead. This method helps me a lot to stay in the flow when I get frustrated with the lines, and it's also more fun. It's also kind of like meditation for me. It's so relaxing, but it also takes way longer. For this drawing specifically, I initially did the first method, but switched between both when I struggled with the line art. Loco. In both methods, I often add line weight afterwards instead of varying it while doing the stroke, especially on the second method. That way I get really clean lines and have a nice thick line art that I really like, and I love how it looks, but it often makes the line art a bit stiff because I tend to be too clean. It loses a lot of its dynamic. Sometimes I should just let go and be a bit rough because it gives the drawing a more interesting look and a nice texture. For example, Blauauge's shoulder here has a nice texture that I really like. I also tend to focus too much on anatomical accuracy, which also takes a lot of dynamic out of my drawings. I aligned Neon and Blauauge first. They are totally my comfort zone characters to draw, so that didn't take long. However, I definitely should have used references from the poses. It would have made the drawing way more easier and the poses even cooler. Why do I never learn from my mistakes? Also, a reminder to myself, stop creating buff characters because anatomy is so hard. My comic cast does depict a variety of body types. However, my D&D characters tend to be built very similarly, and I should definitely change that. So I wanted to talk about every character's line art process, but I honestly don't have a lot to say about Blauauge, so let's talk about Neon. I changed her pose a lot. When I added the action lines, I changed the pose accordingly to it, and I struggled a lot with the pose and the armpit/arm area, and had to use a reference for that. Really gotta do some anatomy studies again. As I said before, I loved the flow of the trans flag in the first draft, but it didn't make any sense and it took forever to draw the flag in a way that I liked as much as before. Oh boy, it was so hard to draw, especially when I was still considering that Blauauge and Neon should hold it together. I gave up midpoint, switched to Lunko, and later came back to this stupid flag. In the end, I'm really proud of how she turned out. I think Neon looks super cute in here, and drawing her makes me miss her a lot. Our main campaign is on hiatus right now. We played a lot of one-shots, or more like long shots, because we take multiple sessions to finish them, including the mini campaign that I'm the DM for right now. And while I am hyper focusing on her bestie and brother in spirit, Blauauge, I miss playing Neon a lot and I can't wait to come back to her. To stay in flow while drawing, I always switch between other projects and elements of the current project, so I came back to Blauauge for a bit. I gave him his own flag to hold now, the Progressive Pride flag, because it felt a bit weird to not have at least one rainbow in the drawing. Drawing additional elements beyond the first sketch, like this second flag, was challenging because it had to fit into the composition and not disturb flow of the viewer. So after failing drawing Neon's trans flag, I switched to Lunko to have a better time, and oh boy, they were so hard to draw. And Lunko's character sheet says that they are 1.80 m tall, but I often draw Lunko smaller. But for this drawing, I wanted to get his height right. And man, that complicated things a lot. Had to change his size so he doesn't take too much space, but also keep them big enough to still stand out. And I had to reposition them a lot so the composition still works. And the pose was a nightmare, especially the legs. I wanted the upper body being turned towards the other characters to the right to kind of close off the drawing, but also make Lunko look like he follows the direction the others are heading, meaning to the left. They often just looked like some broken doll being turned into two different directions because the child was too rough while playing. Also, the legs. Oh god, the legs. I always have problems drawing legs. There's a reason why most of my drawings depict the characters only to their upper thighs. Especially slim, long legs are a nightmare to draw for me. I can draw buff and beefy, and I can draw chubby and round, but slim, long people? Impossible. The clothing was quite a battle as well. It often hit Lunko's legs, so you wouldn't recognize the pose anymore. And since I had a hard time drawing the lower body, I switched to the other line art method I mentioned before, just cleaning up the sketch. This resulted to the lines being really thick at the lower part of the body, which made the cloth look heavier than I intended, and also had the consequence that I have to make the line art for all the other characters a bit thicker now. But in the end, I do like how Lunko turned out though. Last but not least was Elru. I thought that drawing him would be so easy. Look at him, he's just a tiny flowy blob in the background whose pose is mostly covered by his robe, right? Well, no, it was so hard. The lines felt extremely stiff to me. It was probably because I couldn't nail the subtle angle of his face that he had in the sketch and his upper body being slightly tilted forward. Because of that, I wasn't too sure what to do with his legs either. As mentioned before, I tend to sketch very loosely, and adding line art often makes it less dynamic, but it's hard to balance it, right? Because the loose but dynamic sketch often comes with anatomical and perspective mistakes, but cleaning it up or lining it tends to make it too stiff. Does anyone have an idea how to handle this? In the end, I still like how he turned out, and I love drawing his coat. Elru just looks super cute and baby and soft and happy in here, and he really deserves this from time to time. Finally, off to the coloring. For the colors, I pretty much oriented myself by the color sketch that I did at the beginning, starting with adding the flat colors. So the first one to get drawn is Blauauge. This is short king, is a bicon, so I colored him in the bisexual colors, and choosing which color belongs where was pretty easy for him since he's a very blue boy, and I used pink and purple for accents. God, look at him! He looks so good! I love him! Ah! It makes me so happy to see my man Blauauge in these wonderful colors, and I think he looks so good in it. I am obviously extremely biased for I think obvious reasons, but I love the bisexual color scheme. I may not be the biggest fan of the color purple, please don't cancel me, but it sure slaps hard in combination with this hue of blue and pink. He doesn't hold the trans flag in his hand anymore, so now he has his own one wrapped around his hip. Recently I try more actively to learn more about the identities of my characters, to represent people with the same identity respectfully. While doing some research, I came across several bottom surgeries that some trans men and trans people who are assigned female at birth can choose to go through, and one of them was phalloplasty, which I thought suited Blauauge very well, so I decided to show off his phalloplasty scar on his arm a bit. As a marginalized person myself, I know what it means to see yourself represented in a respectful way or represented at all, and it's very important to me to show more diversity in my art. While I'm scared to mess up and hurt people while doing mistakes, I still want to try my best and make people feel seen and respected. For example, I still have to learn more about how to depict the phallo scar correctly, And just a few minutes ago, I learned something new about Plasti that I haven't included in his character design yet, so I will do that later. Next one is Neon. I do like the color distribution for her. The lesbian flag is just so pretty and really fits the colors of a trans flag. And here we have Elro, whose lines were a bit of a struggle. In contrast to that, picking the colors of the flag was very easy for Elro, and I think it looks good on him. And for last, let's add some flat colors to Lunku, who almost killed me while I tried to line them. Deciding where to put what color was also a pain because Lunku fits into a lot of labels, non-binary and asexual primarily, but also probably pan and demi-romantic. I cut the last two out though because Lunku doesn't feel particularly strong about these. I also just considered using the rainbow instead because they wouldn't be too fixated on labels anyway, but the rainbow colors looked horrible on him with the level of saturation. I'm not sure if you can tell that Lunku's color scheme is supposed to represent the non-binary and ace colors since they share a lot of the same colors, but I think it looks nice. By the way, almost all of my D&D characters have a blue or yellow color scheme, but after drawing this, I really like seeing them in different colors. Maybe I should recolor them. I enjoy purple colored Lunku and bi-colored Blauauge specifically. After adding the flat colors, I did some finishing touches to the line art by coloring the lines first. If you use Clip Studio, I found a really nice auto action that automatically colors your line art. I do some changes accordingly to my drawing, but it is super helpful. I will put the link into the description. After that, I duplicate the colored line art, add a blur to it, and then put the second, now blurred line art layer on top of the original line art and apply the blending mode hard light, which makes the colored lines more saturated. The reason I'm doing this is to make the line art pop out more under all the colors. I'm still figuring out how I want to color my drawings because adding colors often tend to distract from my line art, which I hate because I put a lot of effort into it, and personally I think my line art is the best part of my drawings. Specifically, shading is quite a problem in regards to distracting my line art. For the final shading of this drawing, I just used the same shadow layer that I made for my initial color sketch and cleaned up the shadows according to the final drawing using soft and hard shadows. Lately, I'm leaning towards cel shading because I think it fits my line art heavy art more, and it's also fun, especially using the lasso tool to play with soft and hard shadows is cool, even though I still need to practice it. However, I struggle a lot with cel shading. By giving characters and objects more dimension and volume, totally changes the look of the whole drawing. Take Blauauge's face for example. It just looks completely different, so I often just don't shade the faces strongly anymore. I often prefer my drawings in the flat color stage more than rendered, but they also look kinda empty and unfinished without shading. I also don't know how and when to use multiply, to be honest. I know that I don't have to use the same color for all the shadows in one drawing, but I always feel like the colors look kinda muddy afterwards. Maybe I should just stop shading at all. A few years ago, when I didn't focus too much on my line art, my coloring was more paintery, and instead of using a multiply layer, I color picked the shadows individually and shaded directly on the flat colors. It was a lot of fun and the colors were really nice, but it takes forever and probably doesn't work too well with my line art nowadays. Maybe the solution is just to not have only one line art style and only one coloring style, but having different styles with different combinations. Like, I love creating volume, shadows and texture with line art, and instead of using detailed coloring, I could just keep the flat colors or use cel shading sparingly. And sometimes not every drawing needs some strong black shadow or should be line art heavy, and then maybe I can do some more paintery shading again or use cel shading with soft and hard shadows. I don't know, maybe you have an idea. Anyway, after this very long tangent about line art and shading, let's continue with my favorite part of coloring, adding rim light by using the blending mode at glow and the watercolor edge when using border effects in Clip Studio. Rim light just makes everything better and works for whatever line or coloring style I use. It's just rim lighting, let's go! Looking at the drawing now, maybe I should have used different saturations and hues to guide the view more, making characters in the background a bit desaturated and blurry, to give the drawing more depth. But I also love vibrant colors too much. I'm weak. I cannot not use saturated colors, okay? In the end, I added some extra light by putting once again another rainbow gradient on top of the individual characters and put these layers to the blending mode lighten to have some colorful light instead of white only and to distinguish between the fore, middle and background. To make the flag that Blau was holding look a bit see-through, I tried giving the flag a little glow in the middle by clicking on the mask of a shadow layer and erasing that part with a soft airbrush. To finish the drawing, I added some white airbrush over the outer contours of the characters to make the light source look glowy and strong. And here's the finished drawing! I'm really glad that I finally finished a Pride drawing, since I myself am still on a long way of accepting who I am and struggling to be out there, but I'm getting there. And this is also a step for me to be loud and proud and accepting myself. So let me just tell you, to the people who are still struggling with who you are, sometimes it's hard to be proud and loud about who you are, especially when you are raised or when you are currently living in an environment that discriminates against people like you and me. It's okay to take a long time to realize and accept and be confident of who you are. That doesn't make you feel less than a person just because it's still hard. It's okay. Or maybe this is just what I needed to hear when I was younger. That's it for now. What do you guys think of the drawing? Just like in my other more art process focused videos, I am open to some tips and ideas how to improve, as long as you're nice. I hope you had fun watching this.
Thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like or subscribing to see more.
See you in the next video. Bye!